All right. Perfect. All right. Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday, October 24th at 6 p.m. So we should call this meeting to order. Let's just start with a roll call. Jan Bolerdeck, District 2. For the Hoover, Leyden, District 1.
Yeah. Scott Whitbeck, GPAC Debit Officer and designee for our superintendent, Dr. Pagos.
And North District 4.
Dave Marcy, District 5.
Thank you very much, and welcome to all of our guests joining us today, both in person and online. It's always exciting to see folks here. So thank you for being with us. All right, we'll start with our just kind of our standard welcome and acknowledgement.
We agree when we meet together to stay engaged, to experience discomfort, be vulnerable, to speak our truth, and to expect and accept non-closure. Better? We in the Tukwila School District acknowledge that the land where we teach, collaborate, learn, and play is the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Muckleshoot people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish and Muckleshoot tribes. As a public school district, we have a responsibility for the stewardship of the land, and we strive to work alongside the Duwamish and Muckleshoot people who have been living and working here since time immemorial. We further acknowledge that the burden of environmental exploitation and systemic injustice falls upon the labor of Black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. We remember that Black and brown people were born and died working this land against their will for generations. We also acknowledge the continued contribution of the labor of survivors over the centuries to today of all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. Oh, there's one more sentence.
I know.
Okay. As a school district leadership, we pledge to recognize and work against systems that have historically and currently enforced and create inequities among the people we serve.
Now let's invite those who would like to stand as we salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we'll move to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor? Aye. All right, that brings us to our first opportunity for public comment this evening. So if, before I do that, and as I'm doing it, if you would like to sign up for public comment, there's a sign sheet at the front, and if you have not yet signed in, please do that. We need to capture who all is present as a guest here this evening. So sign up sheet for both of those things up there at the front. Also, if you're joining us virtually and would like to offer public comment, you can do so by raising your hand, using that feature in Zoom, or typing your name in the chat, and we'll get you added to that list. Okay, looks like we have a few public records. So the first, public comments. Words. All right, so Doris, great. Doris, welcome. Come on up here. Go ahead. Again. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh dear. I'm Doris Ditmore and I teach kindergarten at Cascade View. And this is my 38th year at Tukwila. Dear school board members, I speak to you on behalf of the staff at Cascade View Elementary to share our aspirations and concerns for student support in our building. The bottom line is this: we're experiencing unprecedented enrollment and student needs that our current staffing levels are unable to respond to. Our students deserve better. It is out of deep care and love for each of them that we ask for school board to consider our requests. As many of you know, the city of Tukwila has declared a state of emergency to respond to the arrival of large numbers of asylum seekers, many who are becoming homeless. There are many urgent needs that we as a community must address. As Cascade View staff, we understand that our needs intersect with other efforts for rapid housing, case management services, medical care, nutrition, and clothing. And we ask for these basic resources to be provided swiftly by local and state government and nonprofits. Cascade View is receiving the vast majority of recently arriving asylum seekers. And as a staff, we require the resources to provide the level of support our student body deserves. Our enrollment is at 555 students as of October 27, with more students enrolling every day. Our special education caseload is at 41, with only one certified teacher, which is above the cap. And we expect it to grow greatly once students have been assessed for accommodations. We have over 80 students receiving McKinney-Vento Act services. Our ELL department has 271 students, including over 17 students who have zero oral English acquisition and speak Portuguese, a language the building has no interpretation for. All these numbers are beyond what our building and staffing has capacity for, and you can imagine it has numerous ripple effects. Class sizes are well above recommended levels at each grade band, limiting any individualized attention and creating unsafe classrooms. Recess, lunches, and transitional periods are overwhelming with not enough staffing supervision. This is also a safety issue. All therapists are at caseload limits. Custodial duties and material needs have increased greatly with a smaller budget. Special education staff are not getting duty-free lunches or breaks due to urgent needs. We have many students who qualify for receiving LRC 2 services, which our building does not provide, and we do not yet have transitional plans in the works. We are out of compliance with IEPs. These students are also demanding a large share of attention from all staff, which is negatively affecting all students' learning outcomes. Many students do not share any common oral language with current staff, making all of these dynamics more difficult. The Tukwila schools must continue to be a safe, welcoming home for recent immigrants. We as a staff are honored to be tasked to work with brilliant and kind students, many of whom have recently made impossible journeys to get here. We need your help problem solving how to respond to this urgent need. These are our initial requests. Number one, temporarily freeze enrollment at Cascade View and consider reallocating students to a school with lower enrollment. Number two, increase vital staffing, adding the following positions, even temporarily: LRC 1 teacher, primary grade classroom teacher, Portuguese teaching family liaison, social worker or a refugee case manager, para position, and number three, a full-time assistant principal. Lastly, we invite the board to visit our school for 3 hours during the school day to get a sense of the students' needs and meet with key stakeholders. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much for your, for offering that wonderful welcome. Thank you. Okay, we have one more in person, on the line. Or did you sign the wrong one?
You find the wrong one.
Just kidding. Like,
Oh, the over there. My apologies.
no worries.
Thank you for the opportunity. I meant to sign it.
And I saw there, oh, never mind, I'll let people comment. Okay, so maybe just another second, if there's anyone online that would like to have a public comment, now is the time, of course, there will be an additional time at the end as well. All right, then, we'll move on next to, oh, yeah, just kidding, okay, all right, Sarah Hendrickson.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I work at Thorndike Elementary and I was just joining to also support Cascade View and their letter as well, and our staff supports them and their asks as well. We're also receiving lots of new students, not nearly as many as Cascade View, but having the resources necessary to support those students. And when they speak about LRC2 students and not having programs, there's only one in the district at our building for K-5 students, and their case numbers keep climbing because students are coming in and then have to be transferred over to our program. And there's a super overwhelming amount of cases in LRC2 and LRC1 and not enough staff to manage that. And there's conversation about being overstaffed and certain rooms where if the board came and visited, they would probably see that there's not enough staff currently for supporting any of the students in the LRC programs. And they're also struggling to get duty-free lunches and planning time as well. So I just wanted to speak to that.
Thank you very much. Right. Okay, moving us on then to our reports, and we'll start with our student representatives.
Okay, I'll go first. So, my name is Alex, I'm junior student representative. And as junior student representative this past month, I've brainstormed with, my co-representative Dennis to start a student advisory group to help advise the school board. Along with that, I also asked a few of my peers if they had any concerns or comments about the school year so far. And the exact prompt I asked them is that, do you have any feedback about the school year so far? It could be about safety, diversity and inclusion, extracurriculars, future planning, etc. And the first response I got was mainly around the topic of mental health. So basically what they said is they wanted a school board to prioritize students' mental health more by dedicating like a 10-minute mindfulness session twice a week in advisory to help improve students' well-being. And another comment I got was regarding diversity. They said diversity is one of Foster's biggest strengths, and like everyone is treated the same. However, they did have a comment about the people who are not about people who are not fluent in English. Some teachers do translate assignments to some of their students' languages, but some teachers don't. So she just wanted to like raise awareness to that. Like some assignments are in English and non-English speaking students don't understand, and some teachers are not prioritizing including people who are not fluent in English. And the next concern they had was about extracurriculars. They said, I wish there were more extracurriculars because I feel like there are only like 3 active clubs right now, and I'm not personally interested in any of them. And I think establishing more clubs related to health and law would be great. And yeah, that's all. And they also had a comment about mental health. They said we should have, the school board should advertise like their mental health resources like a little more, because not all students like are aware of the resources that are offered to them at Foster High School. And that's all.
Hello, my name is Dennis. I'm the senior student representative. This past month and a half, I've been also with Dr. Pedroza along with Alex to brainstorm for our student, student advisory board. I attended a few meetings with the student representative network, where we're planning to bring some things forward for the upcoming year on what we could kind of advocate for and regarding to like student leadership and student voice. What else? I'm also working with Dave Larson on a WASA conference presentation as well, which will present on the funding system of Washington. But yeah, and I also want to acknowledge that I agree with what you guys said about not having enough resources as the school district. I attended Cascade View, and it's my favorite school. So, yeah, I hear that, and I'm also the co-chair of the Equity and Social Justice Commission of the City of Tukwila, and this is something we've talked about, and the fact that our kids are not getting what they need to be supported, and our staff is not getting what they need to best support their kids and also best support themselves. I think that's a real issue, and we would definitely like to follow up on that. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge that. I thank you for coming here and talk about it, and yeah.
Thank you very much. Quite a few things that I'm really interested in following up on, specifically what great insights you got from folks. So thank you for doing that work and gathering that input. I'm really intrigued by the translation of assignments, and definitely want to have some more conversation about that. It's something that I'll follow up with around that. Yeah, and I'm curious too, we talk a lot about mental health and how we can better support students and their mental health needs, also recognizing our limitations as an educational entity. And I wonder if kind of that would be an interesting place of conversation for the student advisory group, right? You all that are kind of like closest to, and Dennis, it's in the mental health presentation you gave last year, right? Where the survey where a lot of the we have a significant amount of resources available on the website, and at the same time, clearly the folks aren't just limited. Makes total sense, right? So I think really being able to kind of like utilize all of your kind of knowledge and to say, here's how we can best really promote and make those things really visible to folks. I think that could be a cool opportunity for the student advisor group.
Yeah, I'll add that to the first advice.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks. Any other thoughts, questions? No. Okay. Superintendent report.
I'm glad to report out some activities, just recent activities on behalf of Superintendent Pedroza. Just last week, there was a wonderful event at Showalter Middle School for multilingual newcomers. There were over 100 people attending, and it was just very powerful to see all the staff, families, and students coming together. Also, an official welcome to Ms. Yami Berto, our new Director of Communications and Community Engagement. Just began early October. We're very lucky to get her here. She has a great background in research and policy. And so she's a wonderful catch for our district. We're glad you're here. And this month was National School Bus Safety Week and National School Lunch Week. And so it's another group of school folks who maybe go underappreciated, but we want to take at least this opportunity to say thank you to our food service and transportation staff for all they do every day. They're loyal, they show up for the kids and take care of a lot of children every day and some basic needs of getting to school and being fed. So we really appreciate and recognize all what they do for our kids. Tukwila School District, in partnership with 2 other local districts, are finalists for the it's called the Horizon Grant through the Gates Foundation. They will be conducting a site visit this next Monday that Dr. Dino and I are participating in. And we are hoping that they interview finalists to chosen group. It's a good funding opportunity for our students if we can get that. It's a very competitive process. So it's a day of basically visits and analyzing our readiness. For a health update, there's pediatric vaccine clinic is Wednesday, November 8th at Foster High School from 3 to 5:30 p.m. And they also offer sports physicals and this is for kids 0 to 18 years old. We received a standing order from Stock Epinephrine at Stepping Stone Pediatrics, our vaccine clinic partner, and submitted orders to Direct Relief for some stock naloxone. And don't ask me what naloxone is for. It's an important thing. Hoping to stock each school with pediatric and adult epinephrine and naloxone for the coming weeks. And regarding COVID, there's of course we still hear there's some cases coming up, but the numbers overall are stable and no evidence of an outbreak at this time. But of course, we continue to monitor all the time to see where we stand on that. Regarding race and equity, we have contracted with facilitators, and we may have heard of that before. Doctors Roger Ard and Dr. Knaus. They are the facilitators we work with through Puget Sound Educational Service District. They provide special learning for district administrators, school leaders, and equity teams. And the first part of this month, we have ongoing sessions with them through this year. And they think this is our third year in the district. So their next session will have in November, and the focus is on anti-racism activities and our focus on full inclusion and a sense of belonging for all kids.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Thoughts? All right, we'll move to director's reports. We'll start at the 6th.
So, Dennis and I and some other folks went with a couple of our legislators, Representative Steve Berquist and also David Hackney, who are the 11th district representative from our district, from our area, and we started the conversation about the funding system, and the fact that it was regressive, and the fact that, you know, for a lot of the reasons that we heard this church, why we need, you know, more support staff in particular, and the funding system that we currently have doesn't support that. And it was interesting because Representative Hackney was actually he's relatively new. I think this is going to be his third session, but he was very receptive to it, and in fact was kind of challenging Representative Berquist, who's a more senior person, and is actually in some fairly powerful positions. He's the vice chair of the Appropriations Committee, and he's also on the Education Committee. So Representative Hackney was kind of challenging him to, you know, recognize that yes, this is an issue, and what can we do about it? So I came away pretty, and we also had folks. There was somebody from, actually a former school board member from Toccoa, Mary Takis, who's on the State Board of Education, was there, as well as a representative from the Equity in Education Coalition, which is another nonprofit NGO that is working on as the name implies, equity in education. They worked on the funding issue for some number of years. They've kind of got, well, when COVID came along, they pivoted to digital equity, which they've actually been quite successful in getting some money and so forth on that. But they haven't forgotten about the whole funding system as well. I've talked with their executive director, and you know, they were frustrated in terms of trying to make progress on this issue. It's a very hard issue to move the legislature on, but I'm pretty encouraged with you know, if we get our Representative Hackney kind of supporting it, that it can actually we actually get a little movement on it. I've also got a meeting day after tomorrow with Senator Tawana Nobles, who's the vice chair of the Senate Education Committee, and she's interested. I've kind of approached her, and she's interested in this subject as well. I've got to do some convincing with her, but, if we can get it raised up in both the House and the Senate, we might have some opportunity to improve, some of the funding that we all know that we need. Dennis mentioned we're working on, part of the issue with this whole funding is to what I call raise the noise level. So get a lot of people talking about it, because when I talk to legislators, a lot of them will say, well, I don't hear people talking about it, therefore, I'm not gonna do much of it. If you get more people talking about it, then all of a sudden legislators start waking up and say, oh, maybe I should pay attention to this. And so, as a part of that effort, we're gonna, Dennis and I and David Knight, who's a professor at the University of Washington, are gonna give a presentation in WASDA next month on the 16th. At the annual conference about this whole issue of regressive funding, and so that's hopefully going to stimulate some discussion with other board members around the state and move the process along. I missed the last the work session, and I did want to respond to one thing. So you were looking at the priorities for the WASDA for the legislative session, and I submitted the 10 that I had since I didn't hear otherwise, but the one that was brought up and talked about, I think we did it, Director Hoover, was the one about diversity in the school board. And so I think that's a really good one. I'm gonna put that on the list for thinking about how to do that next year, because the legislature actually can do quite a bit in that area. We know, and I think Dr. Rosa brought up the issue, and this has been talked about for several years now, to current requirement to be on school board, you have to be a citizen, so as opposed to a permanent resident. And we know that we have a lot of folks in our district, and not only in our district, but around state, that are permanent residents from immigrant from another country who would be great school board members as well. And so that's one that I'm kind of hopeful that one of the most effective lobbying groups in there is one called One America, who is an immigrant rights group out of Seattle, and they've picked up this issue in the past. And so I'm hopeful that maybe that one will come back. It's been around for a few years, and it will come back, and keep an eye on it, and we can definitely pursue it, and I'll try and raise it up with WASDA as well. And then, the other part of that issue too has come up is what school board members get paid, because if you're trying to get particularly representation from low income families, this is a tough haul if you don't get any money for it. And so that's another one that's come up various times. It's interesting. The pushback against it is typically, frankly, from quite well-to-do people. Oh, this should be a volunteer. We want to volunteer. Well, okay. That just perpetuates privilege big time. So anyway, those are two really good issues, and I think, and so I definitely look at getting those on the list for next time. Let's see. Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Well, I attended the last week meeting, the other night, where we were working on the verbiage of the CTE plan. And I'm excited to see the addition of CTE courses at Showalter. And Jeff has really expanded this program, quite a dynamic contribution. I attended the newcomers meeting. It was just fun to watch the people interact and feel good about being there, and the staff is great. And the garden meeting was a productive time, and it sounds like we're gonna work on getting that granted and moving forward on it. And I appreciate that they do stuff and coming and speaking it. So that's it.
Thank you. Try to do quick things as well. I had the opportunity to not directly tie to the school district, but still very close, literally and physically. I attended the ribbon cutting to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the pool the other day. Side note, it was the same day as my kid's first swim lesson. It was so cute. Sorry, that's a little side. Anyway, so that was really, just really lovely. And I know that they're in the midst of a a study to really hope to expand the pool and create more water space that will really ultimately benefit our students as well as our larger community. So excited to really continue to see that partnership strengthened with the pool. I had the opportunity to attend the garden committee meeting as well. I want to just give a huge shout out to Rachel Lavender and then of course Joe Camacho, who are the staff that are really supporting that. But then even more specifically, our senior student rep Dennis, who is the garden manager now. One of the things I appreciate so much about you, Dennis, and there are a million things, is the way that you get involved in something and you're like, how can we make this something that other folks want to get involved in? So I don't know if it was you that pushed it to be a credit for that manager role, but I know that you did that with the school board position, and just creating other pathways for students to experience new leadership roles while also investing in their credits and a variety of other things. So that's just really incredible that you're always thinking about who you're leaving behind as you are about to graduate from Foster High School next year. So much is on the plate of Dennis this year and doing everything amazingly. Anyway, I'm also really excited to hear that the garden project is moving along. I think it'll be a really significant benefit for our students and again for our larger community as well. And this is one of our actions later, but we effectively interviewed someone for the appointment to the board. So we are closer to filling our board positions. Again, we'll have a vote on that later, but I also spent some time getting some clarity on some of the open questions that we had about specifically the District 2 position that will be vacant at the end of next month or whenever the election is certified. So I've got some information to share there. And then lastly, I know I mentioned this a long time ago, but Deb Core and I are working on creating a board handbook, something that has not existed in Tooele that I know of, and if not, it's way far back and it's something that we don't have access to. And as a newer board member, it's a lot to come in and try and navigate all of it. So we're hoping to create a tool that will be used as a resource for future board members. It's not quite going to be ready for our new incoming cohort of folks, but I'm hoping to also utilize their experience to make it handle better. So we got to meet about that and got a lot of work to do, but really excited to be working on that project. So that's right.
Cool. I have one of those board books that it does well.
Oh,
It's about, yeah.
This is a completely different,
What was that? Was that a WASDA thing?
that was our policy thing.
Oh, the one that's like this thick?
That's just for those
That's all the policies?
Oh, you printed out them policies? No, you printed policies? Just kidding. I did. And you were like, no. That's the movie.
Rest of you don't want it.
So, well, I have to respond to the CV folks and I was hoping they'd stay so that I could give them kudos for how they've received all the kids that come from the state of emergency situation at the church next door. They've done such a great job of welcoming them and doing their best to involve them in all of the school environment. I've been there several times to help them manage some of the kids that aren't used to being in school. And it's a handful. These kids have been traumatized. And of course, they don't speak the language, so it's pretty hard to get integrated into school. I will report on that we moved some kids to Burien today. They're staying in a different church, but it's short term, so I don't think we'll switch schools. We'll leave them in their environment that they know. And then we're also working on setting up some tutoring for the kids. They're learning English really quickly, faster than I'm learning Portuguese and Spanish. But they are we'll do some more tutoring with them and, help them to catch up on some of their education. And, I have been swamped with that and haven't done much else, so, I will leave it at that.
All right, so we'll now move to our consent agenda.
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, so I'm going to our board discussion, we're gonna start with the social media litigation. Hopefully, I know it took a little longer to get here, I'm so sorry, Carrie, but we have, Carrie, here with us. There we go, Carrie Lockenberg, who is an attorney, I'll let her introduce herself, but I'm going to opportunity to talk a little bit about kind of the status of the social media litigation and what, kind of our, responsibility as a district, potentially joining the litigation would be, but to not be the middle person. I asked her to join us, this evening so that, she could share a little bit of that information with you all. And you all could all have that opportunity to ask any questions, that folks have. So, with that, welcome, Carrie. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, all. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Good evening. Thanks for inviting me. Just so you understand who I am a partner in the law firm of Keller Rohrbach, which is in Seattle. We have some other locations as well, but that's where I practice. And we brought litigation on behalf of the Seattle Public Schools back in January, and have since brought a numerous other litigation on behalf of other school districts. And so that's my firm's involvement. And so that's, just so you understand who I am, and we're interested in finding additional client school districts that are interested in participating in the litigation. To give you an overview of what's going on in the there are two tracks that exist right now. One is in federal court and one is in California state court. All of the defendant social media platform companies are based. And so the allegations are fairly similar in each of those locations, but as lawyers, we like to, find creative ways to make sure we're covering the waterfront with everything. So, we have filed lawsuits in both federal court and in state court, and those are proceeding. I can tell you that the state court proceedings are down in Los Angeles before Judge Carolyn Kuhl. And she just reached a decision on the personal injury portion of the litigation. So those are all of the cases that have been filed by hundreds of individual children, youth who have been felt they've been impacted by social media and varying from negative to extremely impactfully negative mental health issues. And Judge Kuhl there just reached a decision to allow those cases to go forward. The claims that are alleged in those cases are similar to those that we've alleged on behalf of the school districts, including a negligence claim. So we think that's a very good indicator of what's going to happen when cases are ripe for decision before Judge Kuhl. And so that's, we are just at the beginning really of this process. And that's the first hurdle will be for her to consider whether we've sufficiently stated a claim to allow those cases to go forward into, active discovery and towards trial eventually. So the way in which those cases differ from the personal injury cases are that we also allege a public nuisance claim on behalf of the school districts. And we think that's particularly important here because how impactful the mental health effects of social media have been on youth. And it has created a public nuisance for governmental entities like school districts who have to respond by providing programs, losing time in terms of covering what are the typical educational goals and mission of the schools. And so those cases, there's about, I'd say almost 300 in state court. In federal court, the judge there is hearing argument on the personal injury portion of the litigation. So the individuals who have brought cases there on Friday. And so we will know more about how those are proceeding in the federal forum within, we would hope, a few weeks to months. Basically, I think, the result that we've gotten so far in state court is highly indicative of that these cases have legs. And what I mean by that is I think that we are likely to be able to see these go forward in litigation and to have some impact on the way that these platforms conduct themselves. We've already seen that some of the platforms have instituted changes since we had originally brought this litigation, but it's not enough. And so we want to take this as far as we can and really force these platforms to institute some greater controls that will help take, what is a very difficult situation for parents and schools and youth, and take some of the decision-making, frankly, and put it in the hands of social media, not allowing kids to be able to be on platforms at all times of day, or not have the autoplay feature be a part of the regular default settings. There's so many things that they could do that have nothing to do with the content. The content is a sort of a sticky wicket because of the First Amendment and the sort of protections that the social media platforms have in terms of not being held responsible for third-party content. They have some indemnification, frankly, under federal law, which is something we would like to see change, but at this point is what we have to live with. So we're looking to work around the content issues and try to create structures and restrictions that better serve youth. So that's where the two tracks are right now. In terms of where you all might fit in and what your interests might be, I'm happy to answer any questions. I will just tell you, as I related to Carly, that it is not too late to get involved. We are still really at the beginning of this process. And we have school districts from across the country of all sizes. And so no one is too small or too big to participate in this. It's really something that we welcome all school districts to participate in.
I do have a question about if the board were to be on with this, what would our involvement be? What would our involvement be? What role would we play? And kind of what commitment would we be making to this? And what would it take on the side of the board?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there is variety or scope of involvement. There will be certain school district plaintiffs that are selected sort of as what we call bellwether. So there will be sort of some example cases that get litigated first because it's too much to do everything at once. And so if Tukwila is not interested in sort of being at the front lines and having to take that sort of frontline role, that is, perfectly fine. We, in fact, have already selected the bellwethers. So the other school districts will just essentially have a more backseat role at this point, while those other cases move forward first. So the amount of time and commitment that we would need at this point is to work with a contact person to help us gain a little bit of information that we would need for the complaint, to file the complaint. We don't ask that you run any surveys or do additional research or anything like that. We just want to take whatever on-hand data and information that you have. And if you don't have everything we need, we work around it. So it's a very low for the complaint. Eventually, there will likely be some requirements in what we call discovery. So that is sort of the document and production and answering questions. We have a lot of experience working to try and minimize that for our clients. We were involved in the Jewel litigation and the opioid litigation where we represented school districts there. So we do everything we can to take all the tasks on ourselves, but we will need a contact person to work with at times to answer questions and to see what documents the school district has that are responsive to discovery. That is probably one of the bigger tasks that would be required of the school district. And like I said, we do everything in our power to try and reduce the impact, because we know this is not your primary work task, and it's something that we try to take on. But there is some requirement for time and effort in terms of collecting information.
So can you comment at all on what the potential benefit, I mean, looking at the cost side of it, so what would be the potential benefit to the school district of doing this?
Right. Well, I can speak to what we've seen in like the Jewel litigation, but I can't give you a specific dollar amount, or here's what I'll say. What we're working for is some injunctive relief in terms of the platforms changing the way they conduct themselves. That's one of the benefits. In terms of a more direct benefit to the school district, we would be seeking a monetary damages. So that will likely be, awarded based on the student population. So, smaller school districts will receive less than larger school districts. That's just the most fair way that we have come up with to disperse any potential recovery. But it has allowed certain districts to, add staff, to, buy additional resources, to, come up with on your own what suits your community, what your community needs. It's nothing that we specifically, dictate, or that the settlement needs to dictate. There may be a scope of things that are allowed for the money to be directed to, but it's typically very broad. And so it allows the school district to choose how it thinks it can best use those funds to benefit its students.
And I assume the law firm is doing this on a contingency basis, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Is the law firm doing this on a contingency basis? In other words,
Yes.
no? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. All of our work is on a contingency basis. We don't ask for any retainer. We don't ask for you to cover costs. We take all of the risk, and the only way we recover our outlay of effort and money is through either a judgment or a settlement. And then, per the retainer agreement that we would have with the school district, we can seek up to, you know, a third of the recovery for compensation of the firm. And again, just so it's clear, that's something that has to be approved by, usually by a court, or at least oversight by the court, to make sure it's fair. But, you know, that would be in the contract between my firm and the school district.
Other questions?
Are there any downsides that could possibly backfire on us if we do join this?
You know, one of the concerns that school districts have had is that we are in a largely tech, you know, employer community. There's a lot of tech here in the Puget Sound region, and that's been a level of sensitivity for school districts. The other issue that's been raised is the school district putting its on something that, you know, is non-mission oriented. And, you know, I think the retort to that is really, you know, we, the law firm, are trying to do the work on behalf of the school district, so you aren't having to do it. And so it's not really taking away from your mission and your effort.
Great. All right, Carrie, thank you so much for joining us, just kind of sharing about that and giving us the opportunity to ask some questions. I will be in touch soon. We'll probably have a little bit more discussion here as a board and decide, know what the next steps might be for us. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and before you get back, I guess I'd like to hear a recommendation from Dr. Pagola, because it's, I mean, to me, the potential downside is staff, time, whatever. I mean, it sounds to me like it's generally a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that, you know, the superintendent is on board with it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, what I can do is, bring this, back to her, and then, we can put it on a future board meeting. Carrie, let me know that we don't necessarily have a hard deadline or anything to get involved. So, you know, if we ever kind of remember meeting, we have our December meeting, that we circle back to this, so.
It could also be nice to have a conversation with the boards that are already, like, the curricular district already involved with them, and see their perspective and see why they're doing it, and see, like, you know, like firsthand account what that is like.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a similar district that's comparable in size to ours that might have some insight into like what's been asked of them. That's a great point. Okay, great.
Alex, did you get, I know you expressed an interest in this, it turned out we didn't actually have a meeting, so that's why I didn't get back to you, but did you, has your thoughts or concerns on this been talked about?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, you were probably just interested in what's going on, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I was wondering, like, what was the time scale from this? Like, if we join now, like, will we see like the outcome?
So it'd be a very long time.
Yeah, these things go on for a long.
Yes. Yeah.
You guys will be gone.
That's all much they have from it.
So it's called paying it forward.
All right, well, if other things do come up in the meantime, or questions, here, just, you can say any or just save it for the next time, so we region. Awesome, okay, so the next, item for discussion is the board recruitment campaign, we've made some, steps on District 3, which again, that's on our agenda tonight, that, appointment. So this is mostly gonna be centered around, the District 2 position that will be open, whenever the election is certified, which usually happens at the end of November or early December. Between our last meeting and this meeting, I was tasked with, checking in with, John from the PSCSD, which I did. We confirmed that, I know there was a concern about potential write-ins, that is not a
Yeah.
concern, there's actually a deadline for when even a write-in candidate would need to, submit their intent to be a write-in candidate, and hopefully you've all received your ballots already. I noticed that there's not even a place, with which to write those, write anything in there, so that's not an issue, so at this point, we know that. This position will be open, and will, be up for appointment by the board. So I, also from John, he directed us to our legal counsel, because their legal counsel can advise our board. So I was able to contact our district attorney to get some clarification on what we can do, kind of between now and when the election is certified. Again, just to kind of like share why I even brought this up originally is, as we know, folks that, get elected into this position, in the past, and I was really grateful for this opportunity for myself. We were able to send those folks to LAWSA even before they were, sworn in as board members, because they were, what's the term? Board members elect or whatever, that term is there. So we can do something similar, and I verified this again with our legal counsel, we can do something similar with the District 2 appointment. So, unless something has changed, we have one, applicant, that we have received from that district. So we could, in theory, move forward with the interview process. We could do the vote, on that appointment, and then, but it wouldn't be until our first meeting in December that we essentially got that vote and, did the swearing in of that person, so they wouldn't start, but they would kind of be an appointment, like, whatever the equivalent would be to, a board member elect, right? So, they would be kind of like in this pending period, but would still allow us to, spend those district resources that send them to LAWSA. Again, that would be my hope, that we could move forward in that direction. Again, simply so that we are giving everybody the opportunity, that is incoming, to attend that really valuable experience. But I also recognize, I know some feelings that you shared, at the last board meeting, and I want to recognize all of those feelings as well. So that's what I learned. Legally, we can move forward with that. It wouldn't be like appointed for a future date or anything like that. It would be a normal permit, but just officially being modified at this December meeting, probably. Maybe no, probably not. We're doing that one. But anyway, yeah. Thoughts, questions?
Sounds good.
Okay, then what we'll do is we'll work with Deb to, kind of start the process of getting those interviews, the interview scheduled. It is still open though, so if anyone listening knows someone, that lives in District 2, that is interested, in serving on the school board, please send them to the website, everything is still open. If they have any questions about what it means to serve on the school board, or what it might look like, or what time commitment or anything, definitely reach out to myself or any of the other board members. We'd love to talk to anyone, about that. So, all right, great. Thank you. Okay, so moving on now to our questions only presentation. I will start with the enrollment report for October.
It seemed like that a little bit different day of CV tonight than came out on this enrollment.
Yeah, I was curious about that as well.
But I
I
think
think it might be about 100 less. I think they said 550.
So
So real quick, we do count at the beginning of the month, so October 3rd is when it's due, and since then our enrollment has increased, so the report that's submitted is going to be based on that.
Yeah, these are supposed to be at our first of the month. So almost even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's this doesn't include preschool either, which I assume is in the account that y'all were. They'll be collected in the program that.
No,
Oh, okay.
what they're saying is strictly K-5, that does not include preschool, the three preschool programs we have.
Okay.
So October 3rd, that count is accurate, but we have increased that much in the 3 weeks since count and not include the three preschool programs.
That's a lot.
So I got 120 months.
Yeah.
What the teacher here is accurate.
Well, has there been any other significant increases at any other schools like that? No. Okay.
Did we hear from Thorndike a little?
No. Okay.
Has there been a question from the admin building about?
It's okay to talk. Yeah, no. I don't want to go out of the rule of order.
It's fine with me, I don't know. Is there any reason that it's not allowed? Yeah, no, please,
No.
okay, please.
I don't have to know the rules. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna mess up the rule for order, right?
Okay, so yes, the count is reflective of when we do our counts at the beginning of the month, October 3rd. There are very specific things that each office manager and all the schools are responsible for. So, they follow the steps from the district and they submit counts. But since then our numbers have increased, the numbers that are reflective in Mr. Woodard's report are accurate at that time, but not as of today. We have 3 preschool programs at Cascade View. We have ECAT, Head Start, and ECSC, but those numbers aren't reflected in the numbers that our teachers shared today. There have been discussions with admin. We have a monthly operational meeting, I think every 3rd Friday. So we talked about enrollment. I know I have a meeting on Thursday with Mr. Woodard and Chief Whitbeck. Dr. Pedroza was going to attend prior to, right, information she shared. We're also going to be talking about enrollment and looking at next steps and some of the things that the teachers have spoken to today. And also, Mr. Dragon has also been a part of those conversations as well. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Should have asked this when she was up there.
I can go back.
Yeah. The things that the teachers asked for, are those things coming before, the requests coming directly before the admin team?
Yes, I have, actually, and Mr. Dalton, who was our PE teacher, actually shared additional communication today with staff on some of the things that I am going to be following up and I have followed up with in the past, and some of those requests will be shared for additional supports for our students. Chief Whitbeck also attended our staff meeting on Wednesday, October 18th, where we spoke about enrollment, some things like trying to get a Portuguese family liaison, and there were some follow-up conversations that he spoke to, and we're also having on Thursday, but some of those requests are also going to be asked for.
Okay, I mean, they gave us some most definite and specific ideas, and they can fall on our table, but it would be really nice if they're also falling on your table.
They are, I know Ms. Mon and also I have a meeting tomorrow as well about preschool. So, some of those very specific requests have been asked prior to you all hearing tonight. And then also shared last week at our staff meeting. I met with my building leadership team, my MTSS team, as well as my site safety team. I meet with my building reps next week on Monday. So, having the meetings with the teachers and listening, plus looking at the areas that I can see in the difference and what we need to do for next steps to continue to support our learning community. But the teachers have been, as you said, they've been awesome and jumping in and supporting, but our enrollment has increased that much.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Are any of these positions already like, posted, or are these like fully new positions that they're looking to?
So the asks from the teachers are not positions that are currently posted. The only position that we would have posted that we still need to fill would be we have an ELL, ESP that we need to fill. But the ones that were asked up tonight are not ones that are currently posted.
Thank you. Well, excited about the increases of enrollment and also, honestly, that was especially happening so quickly. It's definitely a significant burden on you and your team. So, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, the, one of their requests was for an additional staffing allocation for LRC one, and is actually posted.
It is, okay, that one posted. Oh, yeah. Well, surprise. I'm sorry, I'm not that. Okay, great. Any other questions, thoughts, that, makes all sense to me? Okay, great. Esther reports.
So first of all, I wanted to make sure that, I read an interesting article today that said that, the federal government is actually in the process of entertaining, the ability to extend the time. I want to make sure we're plugged in on that, because apparently this is an emerging thing that obviously a lot of districts are, particularly with the ESSER $3, they're not necessarily going to be able to spend it all on time. And so apparently there will be a process coming through OCI eventually to apply to maybe spend some of these funds next year. So I just want to make sure that we're plugged into that process, because that may, assume that may be helpful, so that we aren't leaving any money on the table. Let's see, I was, so that being, let's see, so for, in particular, ESSER $3, we're showing what, 4.6 million in the balance. Am I reading that right? Correct. Okay, so, and I was trying to determine how much of that is, I guess the term is encumbered or committed. And you said 2.2, is that 2.2 out of the 3.6?
Out of the remaining balance.
Out of the 4.6, okay. So we're looking at about 2.4, but still, okay.
And that number will change as
Sure.
purchase orders are created.
Yeah, and you know, as I'm listening to the Cascade View, I'm thinking, that's $1. So I'm sure that's, you know, you guys are gonna be plugging into that. Let's see, and this, we must have talked about this now, but the whole issue about the ventilation improvements, which, you know, originally Esther was, you know, that was one of the things that Esther dollars could be used for, because for the obvious reasons of related to COVID and so forth. And so I asked, you know, anytime you do this $3 for ventilation improvements, and we've been talking about that for a while, and I'm trying to get a sense of, you know, first of all, what is, the last I heard, the state of our ventilation systems is that, you know, they're at MERV level 11. Now, is that uniform across all buildings, or is that?
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, that's, I mean, to me, it's, you know, this ventilation issue is key, obviously, for COVID, for RSV, for smoke, for all the you know, airborne illnesses that, you know, we know our staff and our students are potentially susceptible to. So, and when COVID was going around, I believe the CDC was recommending, you know, a minimum MERV level filters of 13. So, and at the time, when I was asking about that as well, we don't have, you know, the ventilation. I mean, you gotta have, obviously, when you make the filters finer, you gotta have enough power in your ventilation system to push the air through them. And so, it worries me when you say, you know, we're putting ventilation improvements in Tukwila, Thorndike, and the service center. So, you know, if we don't know what the state of our ventilation systems is, how can we decide that those are the ones that we should spend money on?
Yeah, and the difference is that I don't know that level of
Right.
heat. of detail.
Yeah,
Facilities has been working with McKinstry
yeah,
for years.
yeah.
And on a regular basis. And I'm trying to schedule a meeting with both groups on Friday to get more education in myself.
Okay, I just wanna encourage us to be making, these decisions, on a needs basis. So, there's no indication here as to why these particular ones were selected, but, I think of Cascade View, which is our oldest building. So I'm suspecting that their ventilation system may be in need, and this is all speculation because I don't have any data to tell me where it's been. I just want to make darn sure that, we don't even have numbers in terms of what these costs are gonna be. But I know this particular issue is I think it's a big issue, it's a big issue for me, the ventilation systems, making sure we get great ventilation systems in there, because this is gonna be an issue for some years to come, so. Hopefully we can, do research and then, make the decisions about, obviously we're gonna have some limited amount of money, there's gonna be some prioritization, but make it on the basis of, what the needs are and really understanding, where the highest needs are, so.
What are those recommendations for the school company, Liliana?
Yes, Liliana in conjunction with McKinstry. And various input from her facilities and custodian folks, the maintenance. She has that information. Sometimes it's asking several questions to get that to the forefront, because it's common knowledge for her.
Right.
And
We need to get her to communicate that.
yes,
To the rest of us in a way that's clear and, yeah.
A few questions. What's the ALE program that was discontinued? At the end, the last bullet point, that's a 3.
Alternative learning experiences, alternative programs, non-traditional programs for which some students who were better served in a non-traditional classroom or course study, but still working toward their diploma.
So I think around here, it has on occasion, we've had an online school, which would be an example of an ALE.
Are we on? I don't want to read budget, so I'm going to read that question. Are we on track to spend all of our ESSER 3 funds by the deadline?
my answer is in all likelihood. But I don't know for sure. It's more of a question for our academic department and in conversations like this throughout every day since I've been here. We're gathering information on what our costs are going to be this year. And there's still a lot of money that has not been identified, which is different than a typical grant, where we generally know even before it's awarded where all of the money is going to be spent, and we would want it to have more. So it's unusual to be in this position. And I do have to add a caveat as well. In the event that Congress does not extend the date, we also have to come up with a plan to wind down spending. And that may conflict with spending it all.
Just to clarify, I don't think this is in Congress's hands, fortunately. If we were to do that. Good luck. My understanding from reading the article is it's actually in the hands of the Department of Education, which is the executive branch. And so that's my understanding. I mean, we get to verify that it's true, but yeah, if it was in Congress's hands, I say, yeah.
You just raised my level of optimism too.
I can help respond to your question. We are, I know all of us are looking at, if the dollars are that we can spend for student benefit, we will spend it. So I just hate to see any money going away that we could have used for student or staff benefit. So we are looking at, a couple of ways. We're looking at maybe expenses we already have or know are coming, that maybe before we realized we have this amount of money available to us, so we were thinking of what source can we use, but now we realize the allowabilities for effort, fortunately, we're still very broad, wherever there's need that you can justify, so we are looking at what can be spent on that, that's a 1 year only, because we won't get it unless we hear otherwise, so we're assuming now that we are done by summer. So we can have to spend, one example of how we've gone about getting prioritization is we've done just some surveying. Dr. Dino has led the process to, we did round one of just an input of what would be student supplementary supports with some of the money. We only thought, even though it looks like a big dollar amount, we don't know all that's coming out of it later. So we got round one, we're gonna look at $100,000. We thought that was really safe to say it first. And we can offer it to all staff to submit proposals for how that could be spent. And Dino and some other staff got together, did some objective prioritization, and it turned out really, almost all of those proposals were accepted. They came in at about $200,000 worth of proposals, so we had to look at what portion of it could be awarded. And we advised our curriculum council about that, so they can also be messengers to their staffs. And I think it's one of them that we received just came in past the deadline, so that's why one of the two wasn't yet approved. Doesn't mean it won't, but it's just not yet. And one I think didn't have enough detail to show how it connected to strategic plan. So we will, once we see more funds that are coming out of the pot we have, that will give us more information, maybe between Thanksgiving and the break, to know how much more we can try to run to. So that's what we're getting some staff input on what would be best suited to the schools.
And this idea that we could potentially spend some of this year could be appealing. It depends on, I'm just thinking of, for example, the need for a Portuguese liaison. It's probably could use one for more than a year. Number one, because if all we can offer is a 1 year contract, it may limit the number of people that apply. And number two, we'll probably need, so anyway, there's a lot of moving parts in here, and yeah, I'm sure you guys are looking at it. So that's great.
Now we've done looking at that specifically because of the high level of media.
Yeah, right.
And looking at what the costs are,
Right.
for contracted service,
Right.
how much time per week could we afford.
Right.
And so we're definitely in the way we're survey moving forward on providing that.
Right.
And are there languages that we have liaisons for that we no longer need liaisons for?
There are some languages that the pool of our community who need it, there's they yeah, they like Nepali, Bhutanese, or fewer, but some more translator or liaisons who speak one also speak Hindi, there's more. So lucky because most of them are multilingual, they can serve others. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm impressed by the number of languages are. Yeah.
But frankly, that's when you're running out of extra dollars. I mean, as we see on the last page, the number of positions that are being funded by extra dollars, that's gonna be a big issue.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all I got for. That's
Which I think just to piggyback off of that, I've said this a lot here and as well in the conversations with Dr. Bergioza, but it's really those positions that I worry about, right, looking forward, is how are we ensuring, particularly, all of these positions are critical, but we know that our family liaisons are so important to ensuring that we are connecting with our families and our students. And so we have to figure out long-term how to get all of these positions that are listed there at the bottom funded through our regular sources of funding, which I think among many other things is going to be just part of the work and the challenges we're really diving into budgeting for the next few years.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm up for.
I was about to say, no one wants you yet. All right, so, sped consultants and contractor report, and just, a reminder, this is not all contractors, or consultants with the district, that report will be coming as well, shortly, but this is really focused right now on sped.
So my chief concern here is the issue of, apparently we're using, semester dollars to fund, IEPs that are gonna require services beyond this year. That is kind of why we would do that. I assume we're not, I assume we're gonna not do that going forward. I mean, we need to rein that in because that's extremely precarious to me.
My conversation with Andrea, she can speak on her own behalf, if I'm not speaking for her correctly. A new IEP may use ESSER $3 this year and then transfer out of it, just because it's a sourcing.
You mean IEP is written such that the services are for 1 year?
Right, so for example, if we didn't have ESSER 3,
Yeah,
we would use sped money. But because we have ESSER 3 money this year, we would jump into the, we would take advantage of the ESSER 3.
but of course, sped, we're in a negative balance on sped already, so we're gonna be in a bigger negative.
We are, but sometimes the cost to accommodate the student is such that, we do have to spend the money.
I guess I never noticed this before. Why are our nurses and our social workers listed under sped?
And
Yeah, so I can help here a little bit. So they're not listed under sped. The report you're looking at is the list of contractor services that I supervise. Probably is a more accurate reflection of that list that you have in front of you. To answer the question around like the sped dollars and transferring the money into a sped pocket of money. So we are as a district able to reimburse for safety net IEPs that cost over a certain amount of dollar, $30,000.
Okay,
So historically, so for example, last year, 5 students were submitted for safety net reimbursement. We have about 25 students in our district that meet the eligibility of their IEP costing more than the $30,000 threshold. Some upwards of about $150,000 that we would get back in safety net reimbursement that we did not. And so we're gonna really focus in on ensuring that these IEPs are buttoned up, meet all safety net requirements, so that we get full funding and reimbursement back. So that will allow us to have additional monies to pay for these positions. So what you're seeing here is that the student has a 1-to-1 for a paraeducator assigned to them. That's about an additional $100,000 attached to that IEP that can get reimbursed from anything over the $30,000 threshold. So we anticipate that we'll have a significant money coming in from safety net reimbursement. We won't earn that until next summer.
right.
When we do get that safety net award back, but that is one area. Additionally, we're pursuing Medicaid consent, and the preliminary numbers that we've gotten is that we get anywhere, probably based on our population, anywhere between like about $100,000 and $150,000 back from Medicaid reimbursement. So those are some funding streams that will be coming in that are not current.
Excellent, yeah, the other thing that was interesting, last session, they were, and this was, there's gonna be some more action instead, I can guarantee that, we'll see what it is, but one of the things they were discussing was, getting at least half of safety net money in the middle of the year, for instance, so we don't have to wait till the end of the year, so that would be helpful. And then I'm also a little concerned when I was hearing SAU, all these students that are coming in with LRC, this and that. Is that gonna spike us?
Potentially.
Yeah, but I guess I was interested, you said that we didn't get some say, I know you know, a couple of years ago, there was a huge fiasco, we didn't get any safety net money because somebody didn't apply to it. Is there some other reason that we didn't get safety money last year that you think we're gonna get it this year? Was something done incorrectly or?
We, without being here or knowing fully or understanding what happened, and I don't think that. All I will say is that we submitted for reimbursement for 5 students and we have about 25 that we could have. So we
Okay,
only
okay,
have
okay,
reimbursement for 5
okay,
as my answer.
okay, okay. Good enough, so that's, yeah, that's, so there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about future, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Is there anything, for question, like in any of this that could be supportive as you're advocating for students as a legislator, like with some hard data or numbers, vote?
Oh, I think the legislature is well. Yeah, there's no secret, it's just a matter of the political will to just actually go do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't think we need to get some people. Yeah, but good idea.
I think we have to be careful though, this is not sped, this is not all sped. So, we couldn't represent these numbers as being sped numbers, right? Because it's contractors outside of sped.
Oh, yeah, and I wasn't necessarily suggesting like taking this report, like not necessarily, but more like if it would be helpful to gather some, financial data specifically around here's how we've been spending extra dollars to support our sped students. That then says, well, we're gonna run out of this money here soon, so, how can the legislator, fix that, but yeah. That's great, thanks, any other questions from this one? All right, next is attendance and truancy.
Okay, I think it is Catherine. This report was compiled by our esteemed state school coordinator Kathy Turner.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, I had to, okay, I'm here.
Welcome. Other folks, what additional questions do you have?
So. This is, I guess, gonna come up a few times, but I can bring it up here, and I think I'm gonna need to sit down with the superintendent when she gets back is, how are we applying the race and equity toolkit? Because first of all, there's been like 3 different sets of questions I've seen floating when people are talking about how they do this. And, we need to have one set of questions that everybody agrees on. With regard to this particular one, I was looking on page 5, where we're kind of saying, okay, here are the attendance numbers by school. To me, if we're applying race and equity, first of all, we have to disaggregate that data by race, and then we have to look for disproportionalities. And I don't see any evidence that that was done. I mean, I see in the answer to the questions, that's part of our strategic, let's see. And so, the service, so my question is the service provided so that we can be compliant with state and Quebec law. We always review the database of various groups and please refer to our SMART goal. But the SMART goal actually doesn't break it down by race, it's just the total number. And so like I said, I think I want to sit down with the superintendent and figure out, when we say we're applying race and equity toolkit, what does that actually mean? Because I'm not seeing it come up, because I suspect in this case, if we did that, we would probably find some disproportionalities by race in terms of attendance. And then the next question would be, well, why is that? And then we have to go to the IUP county to go and do the things from street data and figure it out. And I guess leave that as it sits, and I'll set up a meeting with that.
Can I just say something about those numbers?
Please do.
So these numbers were run on June 29th or June 30th, because as of July 1st, I don't have access to the numbers because it rolls over to the new year. So I ran these numbers at the end of June and didn't really delve deeper into the race and equity and dividing, separating them out into race and ethnicities. So it'd be something that we can start doing at the end of the year and focus on that. But I mean, I tried to run these numbers and I just remembered at the last minute to run them before July 1st because I knew that was the rollover date.
Is there no way to bring back the data?
I believe someone at the district level could. I don't have access to it.
Because I'd like to, if possible, work on this as soon as possible, because, this has been an issue for quite a couple of years. I've been on the board, which is 2. But then even before that, I've seen it happen quite a lot. So I'd like for us to be able to break down that data as soon as possible, start working on it. And then I think I'd also like to see in the plan for some kind of survey or discussion with the students and the family themselves. I see like outreach, but I don't see kind of getting thoughts and inputs from the families and the students on what are the barriers that make them being to attend school, right? I mean, 200 kids at Showalter and Foster. There's gotta be some reason there that our district specifically has such a high number of absences. That is, and it's also chronic absences as well. So
It's total absences.
It's total absences, yeah.
Yeah. So it's excused and unexcused. We have a high number of excessively excused students. And that's
Okay.
for medical vacations, family needs. So.
Yeah.
Victoria, can you comment a bit on the community engagement boards and how they address, and early warning systems, and how they address what Supervisor mentioned about addressing the issues where we have the highest absentee rates?
So you mean our MTSS and our attendance teams?
Right, just with the community engagement boards, I think you had a report that being developed to specifically to engage parent, staff, students into what are the barriers to attendance and see how we can, what we can do to remove some barriers and make it so students can attend more and at the other time.
So the community engagement board would be a board that is specific to Tukwila, and it would be made up of community members, maybe a parent advocate. We can create the board however we want to create it. We can make it look the way we want to. The state just gives us kind of a template of what they'd like to see. We can have part of our community partners. We can have a student on it. It's a lot of it has to do with the trainings that are involved, and a lot of it is the work that goes into it is listening to families and coming up with plans of how to help them address the barrier and moving forward from that, and then putting that in place. And that would be prior to any further movement into the court system. So it would be more of a pre-court process. So if a student didn't and family didn't get through the process and was successful or did not participate or follow through, then the next step would be the court process.
Yeah, so I think I, want to acknowledge, that, Mr. New, you've done an incredible job of kind of starting to lay a systemic foundation for how this work is going to move forward in the future. you know, I think when we think about to applying the toolkit, I see a lot of that work being done within the district, attendance teams, is that what you're calling them? Yeah, the district-wide attendance teams, as well as the individual school teams. And I also think, so that would incorporate a lot of things. One, that connection with the family, right, to really have those intentional engaging conversations to understand the complexity of what's happening with that family and what are those specific strategies that you might help support their student in getting to school on time. I also see that really, I mean, I think it would be obviously great for a report like this to have the disaggregated data, and at the same time, if we get it now, that's not helping the students that were absent last year at the point report reflects, right? So I see, like, if there's ways that we can disaggregate the data ongoing as the community, or sorry, as those district-wide attendance teams are meeting, so that they can actually do that real deep dive into the data to understand who is impacted most, and then again engage in those community conversations. So I mean, I see your point, and I agree particularly about wanting to get on the same page about what we're using and how and why. And I think I see really that being applied in more of the ongoing work than just like the snapshot of the report that we did.
Agreed.
So I have just one question around the let me start find my note. I think it was on, oh yeah, the kind of district-wide attendance campaign, and I'm assuming that you know, you'll flesh this out a little bit more as you get that community engagement board together. But just curious around what ideas you have for what that might look like. And specifically like what resources or support you might need from the district standpoint to make sure that that can happen.
So there's a website called attendanceworks.org. If you get a chance, go there. It's a great resource regarding attendance nationwide. So they've started these attendance campaigns every year. They have a new slogan. They have toolkits for school districts to use. Everything that they offer is free. All they ask is that we partner with them and use their logo and say information was provided by them. So as far as that's concerned, we just need our social media or communications director or someone in charge to take the reins of that. There's daily tweets, there's Instagram posts, there's Facebook, there's signages, there's different types of suggestions on different ways to engage students and families prior to the school starting. So the work has to be done prior, and most of the work is done in like August with before school activities, and then of course before school starts activities, and then of course September is Attendance Awareness Month. So September would be a big kickoff of contests and things like that. So there is the information is all there. They provide a lot of ideas. Just need a team to implement it at every building, and somebody to, a team to work together to get this off the ground. And of course, a lot of the communicating to the families is the biggest thing.
Any other questions? All right, great, thank you so much, Ms. Turner, for being there. Okay, and then lastly on our questions only is the tech plan. Additional questions?
I guess so the race and equity analysis, Okay, looks like my in January. Okay, so that's gonna be coming.
There's gonna be steps leading up to that. So just a little background, the plan was developed based on the spending cycle that we've used the last 4 years. That's based on the lifetime of the devices that we buy. So that's really the center of this plan to start with. So the plan is here, and this is your first look at it. Maybe second or third if you're open before the meeting. So it went before the tech advisory committee members yesterday, and the ones that didn't attend were sent the plan with a feedback paper, I guess, for lack of a way to provide feedback, I guess is what I would say. It's gonna be emailed to students and staff, the same feedback form and the same PowerPoint to go over with students. Teachers will do that and gather their input. The Tech Levy Citizens Committee will take a look at this and determine if we're missing anything or something that is either in or out. And then we'll get it to the families during the first week of November when we do our conferences at the elementary school level. And we'll do a QR code where they can shoot it on their phone, access the survey and the plan, and do it in that manner. So that will lead up to the event in January. And all of this will be done with the race and equity tool that I included in the questions.
Yeah.
I know this is small, but it's the one that included in the question.
So that's one that I think is the oldest, but there's at least 2 others
Oh,
that
I
I've seen
agree.
that are.
I've
floating
used
around.
all of them. Director Lars.
Yeah, so that's an issue for.
Yeah, we're trying to like zero in on one.
Yeah, I guess on this one, I'm kind of looking for, access to all the technologies. And because I brought this up before, when you look at like the creative learning labs at the different elementary schools, certainly the history is that one school has much longer program than the others do. And so, acknowledging that, and there are some racial equity aspects to that, and how we're gonna kind of directly address that and catch up, the schools that are, I think a little behind in that. And it's a complicated issue because it ties into teaching and learning. And I think it's reflected, for example, in our 5th grade science scores, which are very different at the one elementary school versus the other 2. And I just want to make sure that we're diving into that and understanding why is that and what are we going to do about it. So.
Yeah, I mean, we provide schools, the same materials to, to meet the needs of the students in that school.
But saying it's not always there.
But we're talking about like the quality of a program that's being offered in a school. And I think that is more of a T&L type issue.
Yeah, it's a combination.
A tech levy issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're very connected, so I think to separate them fully would be not really thinking holistically about the experience, right? So it really is a good issue.
Oh, what issue?
The connected issue.
Well, yeah, I would say the performance in the labs in each of the different schools is different, and it does, students come out learning different things for sure. But again, I think that's learning rather than.
Yeah, but it's potentially, do we need to put some more resources into those schools that are, to get them up? I mean, it's because we're allocating right now, we're allocating equal resources.
Last year, each school got to order whatever they wanted with ESSER funding. And that was differentiated across the 3 schools.
Yeah, it was about the same number of dollars per school. I saw that request. And-
But I feel like they got stuff that they didn't have, you know what I'm saying? Like if I had
Oh, yeah.
five Ozobots and the
Yeah.
other school only
Yeah.
had two, well, I'm not really an Ozobot person, so I'm
Right.
gonna order something, you know, kind of
Right.
else. And so we did our best to
Yeah.
provide the materials that each of the differentiated programs needed to be successful.
But it was the same dollar amount, and that was materials, you know, could be that, anyway, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think what you're highlighting, right, is this difference between equality and
And
equity,
yeah,
right?
yeah, totally.
So just to say all the schools get the same amount of money when perhaps there's a higher need in a particular school to get their technology to a different place, right? So I think it's about thinking about what does each school individually need, and then what funding can support that actually is a little bit differentiated by the school and their needs, so it's not just a blanket.
Which is,
across.
okay, I understand that's in, I mean, the spending is in here and they can basically buy whatever they like with the money that they get, and if they need more. We did replace all the computers in each of the labs, including Showalter Middle School this year. So everybody's got those, which is good. And then we let them differentiate the plans that the support plans that they wanted to purchase from Creative Learning Labs. So they all chose the same one because I think they want to work with each other with it. So again, commonality, some working together to improve all programs. So just a little background and kind of what has gone into our technology.
Oh, one thing maybe add to that, part of this could also be just, kind of resetting, moving together on professional development for the teachers. And since we know if it's look at state tests or state test specific standards, and, you know, it's a balance of creativity within a sense that also, are they teaching to the same standards at the same depth of knowledge level? So that is ongoing, it's a challenge to get that, but it's rewarding. And as a former teacher, you know that that's complex, but that's something Dr. Vino as one of our areas of expertise is the curriculum development. So that is something we can take on this year to be providing support to our science teachers. So that part is equitable.
Right, right.
The committee that it looks like it's only made up of a staff in districts.
Yeah, that's one group of people that we talked to, yeah.
Is there opportunity for, I mean, I know you shared some of when community would have the opportunity for some input.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, like, why not have a few standing community members on the committee?
Yeah, we could, and we're looking at, this was the first meeting this year, so we are looking at adding students. We did have one student show up at our CT meeting the other day, and we're trying to get more. But yeah, it's kind of hard to get them during the day, but we'll try. We've tried before, but we can continue to try.
Yeah, I mean, Montego was on that committee, so I mean, it is possible to get people from the community, but yeah, it's trickier.
It's trickier, yeah. So you'll see this again.
Okay, all right, so that brings us to our action items for this evening. The first one is the approval of the levy rates for the February 2024 election. Dr. Lewis, I know that you asked a few, or likely asked a few questions prior to the meeting, but knowing that you weren't here at the work session, where we talked about the levies, but anything else that you'd like some clarity around, or anything that would be useful?
So, and I sat down with our CFO, and my only concern on this is the amount of money they're asking for in the capital project side of it. You know, without having, so I kind of asked for, you know, something similar to what the tech plan lays out, you know, as a timeline and what we're spending, and I would really like to see that for the, you know, the facilities plan, here that was added. It's just a list of all the things, so there's no timeline about when we're doing what and what the priorities are, and so what I fear is, and I know, I mean, I've been on this ventilation system because I think it's really important. And I know, our staff thinks it's important and the students probably think it's important too, but, it's hard for me to get a handle on, is 75 cents, for example, enough? And I don't know because I don't have a good handle on, okay, what is the state of our ventilation systems? What is it gonna cost to get them up to some standard, whether it's MERV 13 or something? And, where's that money gonna come from? I understand that we were pursuing some grants along these lines and that there was some study done about, 7 air quality studies been done, the HVAC quality test was done in March 2023. Okay, what were the results? And so I'm a little, I mean, there's some room in this levy over to bump that capital projects number up. I don't want to just do it for the heck of it. I'd like to see it bumped up if, we have some specific important projects that we actually want to get done in the next 4 years. And so that's the whole thing that's making me a little bit queasy about this, because there is actually some room, the total mill rate is gonna be going down. And, so we have some room to get a little more money potentially, but I wanna make sure, we've got a pretty good idea about, we wanna get it to do this, and I understand the ventilation is a little squirrely because we're, potentially, we have $3 potential for it, we have some grant, which I have no idea what the status of that is.
Right.
We don't really know what the state of it is. And now you're saying, okay, by the way, make this decision about whether this is the right number or not. That's causing me to squirm.
Yeah, and I don't know what was presented from the McKinstry report in the spring.
I don't remember anything.
So every year, McKinstry puts together a deferred maintenance plan that is presented to the board in the spring, and this year it had a deferred maintenance of $25 million. The document that you have pulls out the major projects into something that's a little more user-friendly than the McKinstry report. The fire and safety system is about $1 million at Cascade View. That is a high priority.
So that, when it says dry system, that's the fire system? Okay.
Yeah, that is probably the highest priority from a safety perspective. And doing that sooner versus later.
Right.
Is better for our
See, I don't see that reflected in here, because that's, first of all, I didn't know what a dry system was. Second of all, there's this, I assume this is not in priority order, so.
Correct.
There's no, these are the ones.
It's not in a priority order. It's in the maintenance world. They know without categorizing it as such, because it's a small team on what we need to do next. And really, it's just a matter of time, my time in particular, and being here and pulling that information into something that is more user friendly to a board oversight, as well as district oversight. Go ahead.
No, okay, so, I see, HVAC listed several times, or sometimes. I see it listed under Cascade View, I see it listed under Foster, and yet you're saying, I don't see it listed under Thorndike, Tukwila, and the service center, and yet someplace else, you said those are the ones that have the priority demolitions.
And I need to defer. I don't want to say anything that I'm not confident in saying.
So I don't know, at this point, I mean, the bond number is what the bond number is, the EPNO is whatever the state tells us to do, so the only number in question, I mean, what we have, was talking about the levy, is that 75 cents, and the question is, it sounds like, I don't know, we have to make this decision today without.
It's up to the board.
I mean, what's the impact?
The impact would be a special meeting.
Yeah.
To approve the rates, so that we could put the resolution together for the board to approve the resolutions. And then subsequent with all of this, the timeline is such as we're also responding to other deadlines.
Right, yeah, it's a series of things to get it on the ballot, and obviously, I'm not interested in holding any of that up, and we're just not really given a decent set of information here to make this call. Do you think? Yeah, I don't know, adding another 5 or 10 cents to that number would help in some significant way to this?
The answer is yes, that the district will use the money that is listed at 75 cents per year for the next 4 years.
Mhm.
Additional monies would allow the district to do more things. In particular, and I'm going to jump ahead. So this is kind of new territory. In the event that the district and the board believes that we need to build a new Cascade View Elementary School, we would probably want to put that on to the next levy. Because it takes a year for us to get the money. And in addition, during this time, there's the planning and there's the architectural piece that push out the completion. Probably 3 years from the time that we approve, going out for the money. Having additional monies at the end of this would provide possibly doing some of that groundwork a little bit sooner. That it may, I don't know for sure, but it may cut the timeline of a new Cascade View being built and operated by a year. So that would be an argument for increasing the 75 cents in the later years.
I mean, I appreciate your idea of including the fixed 75 so that, we get a bump up because of the, the last one, was a fixed amount of money as opposed to a no rate.
Yeah.
So that's good. I don't know, given the time constraints, I mean, if we added another, made that, 85s, let's say maybe in the out years, I don't know. If that was. I mean, we'd still be having the decrease, a significant decrease in the mill rate, but like I say, I'm a little, because I don't have a lot of information, but.
But is it 1,000 of the value of your home?
Yes.
And in this time frame where the economy is such that it is it? I guess I would be concerned with adding more tax burden to the community, although I hear what you say and I agree with you.
And it's also, as we know, in this community, a good chunk of that is going to commercial.
Right.
And it's a, there's actually a percentage, I don't know the exact percentage, but decrease in the overall.
No. I'm curious, but we need to make sure that communication to the public, because the old Taiwan people are only support them. So, I hear that over and over, so. It's just a cost.
Yeah. Can you, why 75 cents? Like, where did that specific number?
4 years ago, we asked for a 75-cent rate, and that created a dollar amount, just over $3 million. And the strategy of at that time was, let's ask for that $3 million every year for the next 4 years. Because property values go up, the math says the rate went down. So this year, instead of asking for a $3 million flat rate, we're asking for more money each year. The 75 cents stays the same year over year over year over year. So to circle back to your answer, we're using the 75 cents because that's what we determined 4 years ago was the appropriate amount. And based on the last 4 years of spending and the tech report and the facilities reports that you've heard, they spend all of that and they wish they had more. But I think everybody wishes they could do more.
Yeah, I guess, the other side of it is to say, well, if you can't really tell me exactly what we would be spending the extra content on, then I have to kind of say, well, maybe, not, and particularly like I say, the ventilation, we do have other options. We do have the extra dollars and we do have the potential grant. Do you have any idea where that ended up and why we aren't?
And you're talking about the big grant that was denied, and
was it denied? I don't even know. Originally, yeah, there was one that was denied.
And then
we're gonna go back.
Yes, the district has been working with McKinstry to rewrite the grant to reapply for it in February.
Okay, so that one's still on the table, and I think I heard, somebody that the first round was kind of tough, and there wasn't really any people that got anything.
I don't think anybody in the state of Washington received anything.
And so the second round, for some reason, it's gonna be better, we think. I mean, given all of that, I guess I could say leave it at 75.
But then again, if we could use our extra funds for a different thing than HVAC, what we want to do.
Yeah, and I have to defer. Would we be able to use ESSER 3 funds for a $1 million ventilation system? Or is that outside of the scope of ESSER 3?
I could go back and look carefully, but what I've seen is the list that they've given as example is very comprehensive. What I understand off the top of my head is that if it can be shown to be for the academic benefit or health and well-being of students and school community, then it's allowable.
The ventilation system definitely.
So based on that, I would say yes, but I would want to check it and confirm.
And I'm pretty sure other districts have used it for some. So I think the answer is yes.
It takes the pressure off of bumping the rate up in the latter years as well.
But, depends. What else we could use it for.
Okay, so you're calling to call my question. Great, all right, so, need a motion, right? We haven't done that yet, okay, so we'll get a motion, so moved. Second, all right, all in favor of approving the levy rate for the February 2024 election? Yeah, they are. Do you want to wait?
Well, I guess given all the other possibilities, okay.
I mean, here's the thing, we could, I'm not worried about scheduling that special board meeting. What I worry about is could we actually get get all of the information that would be needed. I think what this is telling me is that next time, months ahead of where we're at right now, we need to really have a good understanding of what capital projects we really need to be focusing on, and then really be intentional about ensuring that we are putting those rates into the levy. I think Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
Okay. So did you ask for the vote?
Yeah, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. All right, next is the approval of appointment for the Director of District Review. So, any discussion?
I thought, do you guys already vote?
We did not vote.
Oh, okay.
You got something to say? Okay.
Working with, I'm gonna read it, but this way. Working with Lincoln students in the education system is to say the least a challenge. And systematic change is a lengthy and arduous process. People not in the field of education may not always use the jargon, but they do bring life experiences that provide insight and appreciation and acceptance of others. I've always appreciated and taken pride in how the district works with people wherever they might be in their journey of awareness. People do not work in education in the Temple School District because it's easy, but rather because their heart is here. As with the previous applicant, we have a dedicated community member willing to support our students, our staff, and our community. Mr. Stinson was beginning school in the late 70s, and he's been with us on this journey when the first refugees in the 70s came from Vietnam. And throughout his whole entire career, he's been involved in this whole process. He's a dedicated family man who has been involved in the schools for decades. He's a man who began a business in technology that is thriving. He understands finances, which is a plus for the district. Charlie is a man of strength, wisdom, insight, and integrity. He gives above and beyond for his family, and I believe he would do the same for Temple.
Please note this is a roll call.
Yes. So for a vote, or before we do that, we thoughts to chair, I think it's no secret, to anyone that I am pretty firm in the things that I believe to be, right in moving us towards, further, really acting in our values as a district, around racial equity, around really ensuring that we are creating the right type of environments that are going to be supportive of our students. And I believe firmly that starts with that's at every layer, should be at every layer of leadership and representation. This has been I've just been waiting a lot, considering this appointment and this vote. Again, probably no surprise to anyone. I'm pretty open about talking about the things in which I'm passionate about and concerned about, and all of that. I've really, taken the, lead into some advice from the our student representatives, which of course is also a significant value of mine, right? Student voice and input. I believe that representation matters. As a genderqueer person, sitting here on a school board, that matters to students, it matters to teachers, being able to see yourself or see pieces of your identity represented is important. It matters, makes a difference in success, and just how you see yourself fitting into the world. And so I'm weighing all of that, the importance of that, and also weighing, just where we find ourselves in this pretty interesting situation as a school board. I think I just became incredibly aware that literally in 4 weeks, we will have 3 seated board positions. And that's a very precarious situation to be in. For the last year and a half, we've had 4, and that's for the most part been okay. However, there have been times when folks' vacations have been impacted, or folks have had to join virtually when they were ill because we needed a quorum. And so, the thought of going even less than that, I think is really, really irresponsible, from a board standpoint. I am incredibly committed again that that regardless of any skills that someone brings, the lens through which they look at it and act within those skills, I think is the most important, right? So ensuring that we continue to have a board that is focused on and committed to moving towards anti-racist work, and really continue to embed it in the district. So all that to say, you know, I do plan to momentarily vote yes, and this doesn't in any way minimize or change my stated commitment to ensuring that we have a board that is representative of all of our students. That includes our white students, by the way. So all of our students have representation on this board. And I wish that there had been more opportunity to find folks that can represent our students in a different way. And the time's not over, right? There's many more elections, many more opportunities for other board members to be here. And so my commitment that I made to community last year, I still make today, and I still stand firm in that commitment. Knowing that in my last 2 years on the board, in my last 2 years, so until 2025, that is going to be one of my driving forces, is finding and ensuring that we have folks ready to step in 2025. So yeah, I rambled a little bit, sorry about that. So yeah, that's where I'm at, that's what I wanted to say. All right, so we'll do a roll call vote. Director Larson?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Congratulations, Charlie Simpson. I saw you online earlier, not sure if you're still here, but on the appointment to Director District 3. All right, moving on to approval of human resources staffing report.
So
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, next is the approval of the CTE 5-year plan. Second, or motion second first.
Okay.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
I just think,
Sorry, yeah.
one, I had the same concern about the application of race and equity, but, just got out of this superintendent, so it's fine.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then last is the approval of resolution number 96, certification of the 2024 excess property taxes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this brings us to our final opportunity for public comment. So if you're joining us online, we'd like to offer public comment. You can do so by raising your hand or momentarily putting your name in the chat. So let us know that you would like to offer public comment. I see a hand raised already, and it's been raised for a little while, so I just want to confirm, Robin, that your hand is raised to offer public comments. Robin, you are, you should be able to.
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've been working on 2 different computers, and so I accidentally hit the raised hand. I didn't mean to. But I just have a question. Since I'm now on this, but so Director Hoover, were you saying that you do support Charlie Simpson, but in the future you would like to see more diversity onto the school board? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
So we did just vote to appoint Charlie Simpson. And that's correct, as I've stated many times. It's the hope, and I believe what our students deserve, to have representation on this leadership, within this leadership body, that does represent, have shared lived experiences, and deeply understand the impacts of the education system on the intersectionality of those identities. Yes.
Okay, I guess I was just wanting to make sure that it, you know, that you are supportive of who is going to be on there. And he has been voted on there. So, but I do appreciate the fact that you are standing up for what you said you were going to do. And that is to ensure that we have diversity onto the school board.
Thank you, Robin. All right,
Thank you.
Any other public comments? All right, seeing none then, we will move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
I forgot about that, Craig.
Oh, you hung in there till the bitter end, didn't you?